Hey everybody, this is Mario Raunchy, brand strategist and founder of ManuFracture. Here today with another episode of Ambitions of an Agency. Today I'm fucking sick, as you can tell. My voice is going as just far away from me, but I'm still gonna make this video because I gotta keep documenting and understanding my processes and understanding, all this stuff going forward. So really, today's video is going to be about a strategy recap based off of my new clients, Bella Tutoring and Strategic Education Advisors, those two conglomerates, so to say, the educational consultant client that I have, basically. And really, what I want to tell you about is the recap, what I learned from the strategy session, and all this type of stuff. So first things first, strategy sessions went all optimally fine, right? And I'm going to show you a few clips based off of, some clips based off of, what I thought were some key moments in the strategy session that were really interesting to me, and kind of just shows the unpredictability and the nature of strategy sessions. But with that being said, the first thing that happened in the strategy session is first, getting interest from the client. So, as you do a strategy session, you're going to want the client to get engaged in the strategy session. You don't want to be talking at them over and over again. And the issue comes in is when you're a facilitator of a meeting or a session or a strategy session or whatever, and you try to, get them engaged based off only the frameworks themselves, right? You don't ask any other engaging questions. You don't do anything else to engage a person in the strategy session, right? So what I did here is I actually helped my client engage in the strategy session, which I do all the time, right? And so when they start talking about interesting this or you know what, I find this interesting, Mario.
So I've been intrigued by what you're doing, Mario, because I perceive that a lot of what I'm talking about doing matches exactly what you're doing.
Oh, really?
In terms of process. We're not going to be doing branding.
Sure.
We're not going to be building the website, but we're talking about asking the question like, okay, what problem are you trying to solve? Right?
You already know that you already grabbed their attention to some degree because they're kind of already a little bit intrigued. They start thinking themselves, right? They themselves start thinking about their own issues and their own problems, right? They're engaged in their mind as well, right? The gears are turning, all this type of stuff. And that means you're on the right set path to create and find insights in a strategy session. So that's number one, really get the gears turning in your client's head. Engage them. Really, the only way you can do that is go through the session, but also really understand that, ask some really engaging questions. If something piques your mind in the middle of the moment, don't be afraid to go off the structure and ask that question, right? This is interesting. Oh, you said something very interesting there, Mr. Client. Could we recap back to that, or tell me more about that, right? Whatever. Because it's all about ends to the means. So if you don't need to follow everything to a script. You have to have a minuscule amount of structure, but you have to make sure that the conversation is engaging. That's the key point here, engagement. Second thing is really, this time I used a lot of different things since I'm working a lot with people who are like founders of companies and whatnot, and I guess there's a lot of personal brand that can be utilized to create an image. And usually most of the time now that I'm working with education consultants and online tutors, it's mainly been using personal profiles and brand their personal profiles and position those personal profiles online to sell potential prospects on the value that they provide. That's so important, right? And so what I've noticed is that I'm leaning always more towards now, not even just about understanding just about the company but understanding them as a person, right? So I start thinking about what are their, I think what are their values, what did they stand against, right? Not just as a company, right? But also what are their weaknesses, right? Their own weaknesses that they can turn into strengths, own their weaknesses, polarizing viewpoints that they have, right? Because as humans, we have opinions and opposing viewpoints, right? And so that's important. The why is also important, but to them, right? What is its importance to them? Their origin story, right? How did they come across said issue or said problem, and then what made them become that, right? And that's the whole, hero's journey. The person who once was a complacent person, but then he figured out something, or something piqued his interest. He went on the journey. He became a guide, and now he's a guide today. He's a guide today to help out the next prospect that comes along with this problem. And that's really powerful because it relates to the target market. So that's another thing I noticed in this thing, is really putting a lot of importance on personability or personal brand versus company brand, but equally creating the same amount of, I guess, kind of transferring the personal brand stuff and relaying it back to the company brand, so to say. So they're very similar together, right? And that's what I noticed here, because he has two companies, and he's one person. He's the founder of them, and he's the one who's going to be interacting with these people. So we really pushed that first, and then we spread that out within the two companies, so to say. And so yeah, that's really powerfully important, because once you do that, you build that whole thing called authenticity, that buzzword that's in branding a lot, but here you can actually do it because you actually get deep into the person's life, and then you push and communicate that person's life in a way that appeals, and that story appeals to a target market, right? Making them want to buy from said client, said company more.
We're opposed to silly innovations in education. Primarily, what we help people do is return to a sound foundation for education. And it's a foundation for education that was common at the foundation of the United States when our leaders tended to be, at least in part, self-educated for transforming the lives of the next generation of students.
Brilliant. All right, and that sounds pretty succinct and really good either way. So that's a good point. And you want to add to that, or you think that's pretty good so far?
That's pretty good. On a larger scale, I guess you could say that I would like to help fuel the next generation of educational institutions in the Western world. I think that we do need to scrap the current system and start again, but that's not going to happen in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. And that kind of leads into the next thing, is like, what do you believe your target market deserves to have in this world? In the perfect world, in your idealized world, your vision, basically, what does your target market deserve? The parents, the teachers, not teachers, the principals of schools, etc. So I hope you enjoyed these insights. I hope you enjoyed, the little clips that I showed you here as well on these type of insights. And I'll see you on the next one. I'm still trying to get over this cold. But I'll see you on the next one. Leave notifications, comments below, notifications.